Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much, Katie.
And Carl. Goosebumps. I was here for that recording, and I'm sitting here this morning still just so moved by it.
I know.
So,
It's such a foundational understanding of what we believe in unity. I keep thinking about how on her deathbed that she was still thinking about the greater us, the greater picture and honestly, I just am holding for her that she's at rest.
yeah.
She's earned it.
DeeAnn and I were talking yesterday, and one of the things that she mentioned was, this feels like one of those moments, do you remember where you were when you found out kind of moments? JFK assassination for people a little older than us, and
Martin Luther King.
And Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. I remember I was young, but I remember those moments because they were the moon landing. Where were you?
Right.
And those indelible. And I remember I was standing over here next to our sound table. Right, we had finished our service and a beautiful talk that you'll get to see one day that DeeAnn did
Some point.
on Friday. When we're standing at the sound table, and one of our sound person, Thomas Soto, said 2020 continues, and he said while you guys were recording the service, this came through, and he told us, and I literally contracted like I had been punched in the gut. That's what it felt like, and because all the ramifications just instantly, besides the mourning, the ramifications went through my mind. What does this mean? What does this mean? And if you turned on the news, all the juxtapositions. What is this going to be? How do you position yourself? And it went instantly from mourning into strategizing. And it was just.
It was hard. That was hard too for me. That was hard too. Like the fact that it all became about this other thing instead of being able to really sort of honor and respect and stand with this woman that I am very aware that I would not be where I am or live the life that I live or love the woman that I love if that woman hadn't been the force of nature that she was, standing up for women's equality, standing up for any person who was oppressed. Her idea of equality, equal treatment under the law, and how she just went for that, right? She understood something about how if the law doesn't change, it doesn't matter how much we rant and scream in the streets.
Right.
Like, you have to change the law.
And so DeeAnn and I wanted to talk about what that means in our spiritual principles, what this service, why we decided to scrap what we had done and come back and do this live this morning, is because there is a larger spiritual principle, several of them, at work in this. And one of them, and I haven't had a chance to tell you this, but as I was driving here this morning on the radio, there was a tweet that someone was sharing on the radio show I was listening to, and it said, if you have never had to have your rights adjudicated in front of the Supreme Court, you have privilege. Right? And for all of us who have had to have our fundamental human rights adjudicated before a high court to find out if we could marry the one we love, if we could have equal access to public domain, right? It's like that fundamental is so precarious, and it feels like it's ephemeral, and it's not. It is constant, and it is indelible. But we must step up and claim it, and this is where our spiritual teachings come in, right?
Well, because this is the piece is that why she for me has been such a hero is that she understood what we would call an immutable and unchangeable understanding of the innate value and worth of everyone, and she found a way in time and in space to actually activate that spiritual, universal principle to activate that in our actual lives. And that is what I believe in Unity, that we're all called to. It's like we understand there are spiritual principles. We understand that they're immutable and unchangeable. We understand that even if we can't see them, she couldn't see them.
Right.
She was being told, you can't go to Harvard. Oh, wait, all right, maybe we'll let you in, one of 9 women in a class of 500? No, you can't be on the Harvard Law Review. All right, maybe you can be the first woman on the Harvard Law Review. Okay, maybe you will be the first, Columbia professor who's the first female ever tenured, right? I mean, maybe you'll be all of these firsts. She just, even though it didn't exist in time and in space, she kept saying, I know that it's possible for this to exist in time and in space, because it is true. It's a fundamental truth.
Yeah. She graduated top of her class at Columbia after she had been top of her class at Harvard. She switched to Columbia, and that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story.
But, and she was denied her Harvard Law degree in the midst of it. And she switched to Columbia and graduated top of her class and couldn't get a job because, as she described, she had 3 strikes against her at the time in the 1950s. She was a Jew, she was a woman, and she was a mom.
Yeah.
Right? All 3, because they would just ask her, when are you going to get pregnant again? And she wasn't allowed to work as a lawyer.
It was her professor who finally ended up getting her a job clerking in a law firm, because he went to that judge and said, if you don't hire her, I will never allow you to hire another one of my students, ever. And so finally, she got a position.
And so her journey, the arc of her life, is one of the things that makes the difference. And you've seen the reaction of people around the globe and around our country right now. And it's not because she was brilliant, which she was. There are lots of brilliant people. There are lots of Supreme Court justices who are incredible intellects and incredible lawyers. But we're celebrating Ruth and we're honoring her life because she overcame so much. Right. She had to clear the path, and she did it in such a unique and
grace. She did it as grace.
I know. And one of them is to understand she did it with grace, but she also did it with a tenacity and a fierceness, right? A fierceness that was powerful. And this is a quote that is of Ruth that I wanted to share with us all to understand that strength. Yes, and they're putting it up now. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen to side with the oppressors. Take that in. If you choose not to participate, you are choosing the oppressor's side. And she knew what that felt like. As we just described, she knew it viscerally, what it felt like to be oppressed, to be not acknowledged for who you are.
Not valued.
She could not get a job. When she could not, she was turned down after law firm after law firm. Instead, they hired men who were not her intellectual equals. Get that? That she was passed over for people who couldn't achieve to the level she had achieved, and had to smile through it all. Right? But she didn't give up. Right now, there's a parallel in our world, right, in our life, because there's so much going on where we feel that there's our rights are being impinged. We can worry that everything we've fought so hard for, all the equality that has bubbled up, can be taken away in a second, and we can easily fall into despair and gloom. And ready, I don't want to participate anymore. I don't want to play.
I mean, the biggest thing I keep hearing is overwhelm. I'm just overwhelmed. I just can't. I can't. I just can't anymore. I can't. And the thing is that, yes, you can. And yes, we can. And yes, we have to. AOC has put out a beautiful tweet talking about how, this is the nature of standing in resilience. This is about resilience. This is about being able to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And I'm thinking about John Lewis, another great who we lost this year. There's just like the pileup has been intense. And it's like, we got to make trouble, good trouble, right? We got to make good trouble. We got to make that happen.
Ruth's own life is an example with no future on the horizon and the deck stacked against her. She created a path not only for herself but for other people. Right? And for us to despair at this moment and say, okay, I give up, I can't, is a detriment to her legacy of always keeping on, her tenacity and her ability to find a way through the darkness. John Meacham, who's a historian, presidential historian, said it this way this weekend. He said, to despair is a sin. And as we know, sin is missing the mark, right? To despair is to miss the mark. It is to give up. So we have to lean into hope. We have to lean into hope. And then, which leads us to another quote of Ruth's. And I'll let you do this one, DeeAnn.
I don't know if I can read it.
Oh, okay.
Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that
others, that will lead others to join you.
That will lead others to join you.
Yeah.
Can we show that? Yeah, you guys can see it's not just me being blind. The font's a little interesting.
Yeah. Fight for what you believe in, but do it in a way where you bring people to you. You lead with the grace, with offering a more inclusive, a larger picture. I mean, JD and I were talking about, we didn't know there was a candlelight vigil in San Francisco. I think it was on Friday night.
Yeah.
All
these spontaneous
because if we had, we
happening.
would have gotten Roma out to it, right? And brought her to see this, because this is like why people are honoring Justice Ginsburg and why we are, is because what she achieved, she didn't achieve just for her own glorification. She didn't achieve it just for her own financial reward. She cleared it as a way for more and more people, women, gays, lesbians, everyone, transgender, to step forward and experience equality, right? One of her best friends on the Supreme Court was Antonin Scalia. And she found a way, well, she never won his vote. She won his heart, right?
Yep.
And that is more important than anything, is that we can recognize the truth of us, that even our political beliefs, our spiritual beliefs are second to who we really are. We are the divine presence of God. And back to our founding document, that each and every one of us has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men, all women are created equal.
Well, that was her thing, right? It may say all men, but you can't take me out of that conversation, and you're not going to take me out of that conversation.
On the basis of sex, the film about Ruth's early life and her early work, the judge asked her when she's arguing her first case in front of an appellate court, asking, well, the word woman's nowhere in the U.S. Constitution. And she looks at him and says, and neither is the word freedom, Your Honor. It's like, and to understand that so deeply and so completely, that freedom is a hallmark of our nation and its identity,
right.
But it is not written in the Constitution. There are things that are not written that are true,
right.
And her ability to bring that to our hearts, to open more and more people's hearts and minds, is a gift.
So the invitation here is this idea that just as she stood for something that she lived into, that she saw a divine idea of equality And she lived into that divine idea. She caught a glimpse of it. She caught a sense of it. And it arose from her own life experience, and it arose from what she saw around her. And she allowed that to pull her forward and to guide her and to place her in uncomfortable situations and to place her in spaces where she was literally breaking new ground. We stand in the consciousness that she was a pioneer, one of many. There were lots of people who were breaking it open, but she was definitely one of those pioneers. So what is yours? What is your divine idea in your life that is speaking for you right now, that is yours to do, that is yours to be, that you are invited to step into and to activate, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it means that you have to step outside what has ever been done before? Can you use Ruth's example as a model of what is possible for your own life?
Right. And nothing is set in stone. Nothing is a foregone conclusion until we determine that it is. In the face of all odds, we can step forward and stand in our authority, and claim the good.
That was supposed to be the talk today. Stand in your spiritual authority.
And it still is.
It still is.
It still is.
Right.
The message is that it's not easy, but we have to fight every day to make sure that there's more opportunities for more people, not just ourselves. Spiritual means something larger than ourselves. And there's a lack, in my opinion, there's a lack in our society right now for understanding that we're all trying to see, well, how does this affect me? Me. And it's like spiritual means to be greater than the individual.
And I want to be honest too, because I was struggling. I was having a rough time yesterday, and I'm grateful for my community because they've been holding me, and I felt that. I can feel the prayer field that the prayer chaplains are supporting me in right now. So if you are whatever the reason is, right? I mean, this is about taking principle and applying it to those moments in our lives when we feel as if we're thrown off center, when we feel as if the tsunami of life has just swept us off into the Netherlands, right? Sometimes we are so filled with fear and anxiety and despair that it's so hard to even begin to find our way to the very beginning of something, of what is really true. And so I offer you hope. Hope, the precursor of faith. Hope is the thing that we stand in, and it's, as Ken has said, it's annoying hope.
It's annoying because it forces you to take action, right? Hope is that thing that goes, oh, I can't just sit back.
I can't just give up. I mean, let me tell you, I wanted to just put my head under the covers and just hide in a little ball. I mean, I'm being totally honest. And I couldn't because I had all these classes, and it was kind of awesome. And it kept me moving forward, and it kept me realizing that I'm not alone, and you are not alone. So whatever it is that is your heaviness right now, whether it is this particular piece that we are speaking to, or whether it's an illness in your family, or whether it's the loss of a job, or whatever it is, the sense of isolation because we're 6 months into some version of shelter in place. Breathe into these truth principles. Breathe into what we actually know, that there is only love, the song we sang. Find the places, the ways to drop in. But we need to continue to stand in these principles because we need more Ruths.
Yeah, we do. And we're going to take this to our time of meditation. I'm going to ask DeeAnn to meditate for us, to lead us in that meditation. But he also wanted to point out that we're not saying to not feel your spiritual feelings, your emotional life, right? We must, the way through them, the way out of them is through them, right? The way to transmute them is to actually feel them. We don't want you to bypass those feelings. Yeah. Feel it and allow hope to creep in. Yes. Just allow a little crack. Right?
So we're gonna do a practice right now, right? We're gonna stand in what it is that we actually know. We're gonna stand in the practice of meditation, taking this opportunity to center ourselves and to ground into this truth. God is, I am.